Welcome to Information Talks from Sigma Technology Information. I am one of your hosts, Margot.
I'm another one of your hosts, Robbie.
In these episodes, we each bring an interesting topic, development, or news story related to product information, education technology, or information technology to discuss with the other. And then we take a question or hear an anecdote from a listener. To begin, what do you have for me this week, Robbie?
Yes, I have a fairly recent news story from CES 2024. Were you following CES this year?
No.
Okay, so hopefully you haven't heard this story. So this is the story that Volkswagen, the car manufacturer, is putting ChatGPT into their cars.
Oh, no.
A natural reaction, of course. But yeah, they're doing this with a company called Sirens, I think that's how it's pronounced, which is a digital assistance platform that is already using ChatGPT. So although the sexy headline is ChatGPT, it's actually Sirens powered by ChatGPT. So this is a case that they already have a digital assistant in their cars, but now they're using ChatGPT to augment what it already does. So my understanding is that today the digital assistant can answer questions about the functionality of the vehicle. So you could ask, how much charge do I have left, for example, on an electric vehicle? But now, as demonstrated in their sort of demo video that they launched this with, featuring Ewan McGregor, he asks some random question and it answers with, according to ChatGPT, blah, 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 which I don't know how you feel, but that sort of defeats the object.
Not sexy, no.
No.
But what is the purpose of this digital assistant? Did they market it in the way, have a buddy in your car if you're feeling lonely, or kind of, does it have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, why does anyone use a chatbot? It's, I guess, to someone to talk to. I really hope that there's some work being done in the background here, because I am an extensive user of ChatGPT. I know it very well, and I know that it knows what a fact looks like, but it doesn't know what facts are. And so when you put it into a consumer product like a car, and you were to ask a question such as, how do I adjust my seat? I want it to get the answer from the handbook. I want it to tell me there's a button. I don't want it to go, well, what does an answer to that question look like according to ChatGPT? And then say, oh, there should be a handle, because in a majority of cars say there was a handle traditionally. So I hope we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I guess that would be the main concern and question. Did they at all address that in the press release? Like, how secure is that? Can you just ask about, while you're driving, whatever digital assistant's name, can I hit the brakes now? Or
Yeah, good question. I think there wasn't much in the press release about those sorts of concerns. I think that would maybe come a little bit further down the line. And again, I can't help but feel that sometimes we, the public, are beta testing some of these things. I mean, let's not get into Tesla's autopilot, but hopefully there's less at stake here with digital assistants, especially if the answers start with, according to ChatGPT, when it's using ChatGPT. Now, my observation on that would be, how many people have the knowledge of these sorts of things, that if they're driving in their car, ask a question and it says, according to ChatGPT, you go, oh, so I'll take this with a pinch of salt. This might not be true. Your average consumer might get in the car, ask a question, and then just think whatever it tells me is a fact.
That's the scary part about this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm quite surprised that you said that the car manufacturer is going to use that. However, should I be surprised? It's everywhere. Why not there? But I do hope that the database that they are using for the assistant is quite limited when it comes to security questions, at least safety and security questions, because a lot of things can go hella wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Volkswagen obviously a huge company, so you would hope that there's some of that. But there's also, they're just first to market. This was inevitable to happen. They were the first to get there. They have the big headline, ChatGPT in our cars now, and the rest will follow suit. So yeah, there's a touch of, these people beta testing, how secure is it? But it's inevitable, really.
True. I cannot argue with that. But I would be curious to see how it turns out. Will not be the first one to try it.
You're not in the market for a new car?
Nah, not yet. Although an assisted bike riding assistant, do I need one? I don't know. A buddy to talk to?
Well, actually, one of the things that they did sort of talk about in their promotional material was that it's going to be a seamless experience. So it's the same assistant on your phone, on your computer, in your car, in your smart speakers in your home. And from that perspective, as a person that does have a smart home with an assistant, the idea that that same one follows you to your car, as opposed to it being a separate one, I can see the benefit of that. I can see you shaking your head. But
I can see the robots taking over. That's what I can see.
and I welcome our future robot overlords.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
Then you're just where and when you need to be. Right?
Okay, so moving on. Margot, what do you have for me today?
Well, building on that robot taking over scenario kind of thing,
Yeah.
I would like to start by saying that we are living in the future.
Great.
If you haven't known. And I'm going to be talking about cloning. Yes, not the Dolly the Sheep kind of cloning, but more the Black Mirror kind of digital cloning. And by the way, have you seen that episode?
I have. I love that episode.
Me too. It's amazing. We'll get back to that. So basically, we are there.
Right.
We are in that episode, maybe like 5 years behind. But a UK company called Coach Volks AI creates digital clones for their customers. As we speak, right now, 2 clones done. So among their customers are coaches, property experts, nutritionists, esoterics experts as well, of course, but even marriage counselors.
So what is a digital clone? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean an actual digital personality. So it's not just a 3D avatar. It is, but not only. It's also a chatbot, and a chatbot that can answer questions as if it was you. And not only by texting, but also in your voice and with your face and in the video. Yes, you can get panicky right now. I love it.
What is the process? How do you get cloned?
Yeah, I mean, I guess nowadays it's inevitable. But you can pay for that, right? So the company usually asks the customers to upload everything the person has previously written or said, including YouTube videos, podcasts, so,
Wow.
books or newspaper articles. And using this material, Coach Vox, or actually there are a lot of companies that do that, they claim that a user's clone can reason on new situations rather than just regurgitate old anecdotes. So if you have enough material, it can get pretty good at like ChatGPT, building on stuff.
So as a new podcast host, should I be concerned? Am I immediately replaced?
I think you should be more concerned that someone will use all those podcasts and whatnot that you're recording to get your voice and to create a digital clone of you without your knowledge.
Great, a new fear unlocked. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But let's try and find the positive spin. Is there any way that we can use this? Is there any application that's positive?
Yes, and it's not even theoretical. It is an actual thing that is happening in companies right now. So, for example, you are a line manager now.
Sure.
Right? So what happens when a new employee starts working at Sigma?
Yeah, we have an onboarding process. It's what I like to call the tell phase, where you have a lot of information to give them because they don't know things. Obviously, they come with their prior expertise. But in terms of how we do things at Sigma, our culture, our values, those are the things we have to sort of tell them about, or, just the how to push this button in terms of how to report your time, those sorts of things. There's a lot of information that you have to get across.
Exactly. So the first 2 weeks or so are very, intense and busy.
Information dense.
Exactly the word that I was looking for. And of course, we cannot underestimate the value of actual human contact. And when you talk about company values, why not? Let's do it face to face. But when an employee comes to you for the third time with a question, oh, I forgot how to report this, like what's the code, blah, blah, blah. For these kind of things, you might sometimes even wish to have a clone. Won't you?
Sure, I can see that. Yeah. Again, as a line manager, will I be phased out? Am I being replaced by this?
Let's just not talk too loudly about that.
Okay.
But yes, this is what I've heard and seen people in enterprises use it for. Digital onboarding. So the company would create a clone of, the line manager, the person who's in charge of onboarding new people, and then you can just talk to them. Sometimes, chatting, like typing, text box. Sometimes you can actually create a voice, of course, as well. And the funny / scary thing is that they would feed this chatbot information about you to make it more realistic. Like, let's say you like
Harry Potter.
Yes. He stole mine. But okay, let's say you like Harry Potter, and then there would be some jokes or whatnot sprinkled around your speech about that, or some references. So you would sound more like you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm all doom and gloom today, but okay, let's say you're putting your personality in, and let's say you're a person who described yourself as a bit cheeky.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's having a conversation with an employee. Are there risks there?
Yes, of course. I'm actually thinking about it, how, an employee talks to you, your clone, and then you suddenly say something saucy, and then this employee decides to sue you for that.
Right. So just to be clear, they're talking to your digital clone. Your clone, you've told it, I'm a little cheeky, and your clone has taken that and said something saucy that person has obviously deemed over the line, that you maybe wouldn't have said, obviously, as a human.
Yeah. Maybe you would have thought that, but not out loud.
And then there's and then there's the potential liability in terms of that. So we come back to a little bit what we touched on with the Volkswagen story of, as long as it's drawing from a very specific database of things that it's allowed to say. And going back to, ChatGPT, which is just one example of a large language model, it often, if you ask it something, it will say, I can't touch on that. If you try to get a bit too saucy, for example. So yeah, although that would be a very jarring experience if you're supposed to feel like you're talking to your line manager in a digital form and it says, I can't talk to you about that. It's a
bit strange. But sometimes maybe it's better not to talk about things than to talk. So here we are, living in the future.
But I can see the advantage, because that would potentially save a lot of time. I mean, outsourcing various aspects of all kinds of jobs. For example, a recruitment process. It used to be very, very traditional that you would do, interviews in person or whatever. But even here, we've streamlined our process where some of it is automated. You submit a writing test that's graded, and we're looking into how you could have that graded by an AI. So yeah, I can see that it's potentially could save time. Is this the beginning of the end, Margot?
It's always beginning of the end. I'd say I think we will kind of tame the technology to our advantage, as we have always done. Like, who was that, like Aristotle, or somebody is gonna hate me for a cool old Greek philosopher, was really, really against the introduction of the alphabet,
right,
which I mentioned at some other information talks. He was like, we're all gonna just get very dumb because we will just write things down and not remember them, because you won't need to remember things if they're written down, which is exactly what's happening. But somehow we survived. We did. With the alphabet. So maybe we'll survive that as well.
I have a similar thing that I often like to refer to. Two people walking down the street, walking past a building site with a big digger, JCB, and one says to the other, he says, if it wasn't for that digger, that'd be 20 men with spades. And the other says, if it wasn't for your spade, that'd be 50 men with spoons. You can't be afraid of technology. They're just tools that hopefully we use in the right way to make life easier, more efficient. Yeah.
Totally agree.
So now let's take a question from a listener. And this one is coming from a Sigma colleague. So Dan asks, I'm having difficulty communicating complex technical concepts to non-technical stakeholders. It's hindering the progress of my projects. Any tips on effectively bridging the communication gap between tech and non-tech teams?
Yeah, that's something that we know a thing about or two, right?
A very familiar issue, I would say. But as someone who works first and foremost with forms of communication, do you have any tips?
Yes, I actually do manage a team where both technical and not technical people are involved. And my first tip would be to analyze the situation and understand how much information every person needs to know. So sometimes you would be trying to explain heavy technical things to a person who, in a way, doesn't really need to know that. So you'd be spending your time on something like, why do they need to know that? So that would be the first step. After that, if you've realized that, yes, they definitely need to understand how it works, break it down into simple things, involve them in the conversation, try to invoke empathy, be in their shoes, try to understand like, oh, they need that for this and this reason, and use a lot of metaphors and comparisons to things that they would be familiar with. That usually helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. In my previous role as a business analyst, I was often bridging these two worlds between the internal customer, who is an end user of a system, and the provider or the maintenance of the system, who are very technical. And that's part of what requirement handling is to sort of translate between them. So I would say I completely agree with everything you've said. Understand, are you wasting your time explaining to someone who doesn't need to know? That's definitely going to save you a lot of time. I would go further to say that understanding your audience. So if you have established a need to know, what do they know? That everyone knows something, so everyone has some level of technical understanding, whether it's very, very low. So yeah, as you said, try and relate it to things that they do understand, get to their level. I find that visual presentations help. We love a slideshow, a PowerPoint. So try to, if you can make it into something visual to try and help get the point across. Avoid jargon, big one. Avoid acronyms. We have both worked with customers
that love acronyms.
They love an acronym. And you can take that, you can work with one team all day who work with acronyms and get it into your head that this is how people talk. And then you go and talk to another team who have no idea what you're talking about and you just sound silly. So expand terms wherever you can and try to avoid jargon. And this is, again, about communication. What I call it check in or check back. Mm-hmm. You deliver some information and then you're checking that they understood it. Now, in my world, I would say, are you following along so far? Which is maybe a bit...
No, it's a good thing. I mean, it's way better than not asking or not pausing at all. However, in my experience from language teaching, for example, if you really want to understand that people are following you and understanding what you're saying, you would better ask what's called concept checking questions or CCQs, which means you would be asking something like, oh, so, is an elephant bigger than a dog? To understand that the kid understands that an elephant is an elephant, a dog.
Right.
But in a business context, it would be like, does this step come before this step? Or is this solution more economical than this? It could be like very simple yes, no question. It could be an open question as well. Like, so what do you think is most convenient here for your team? Mm-hmm. So that first of all, the person who you're talking to has woken up from their team's sleep. And secondly, they actually,
You're engaging them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just answering, are you following along? They say yes because they don't want to look silly. They're actually having to think about and process what you just told them, mm-hmm. and then use that to formulate an answer. I think that's very
and
good.
It helps remember things when people have a kind of personal, emotional connection to the thing, because then they feel like responsible, a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the IKEA effect.
Totally, yeah. If you've spent that day assembling that damn wardrobe, better use this wardrobe. Then you feel like it's kind of your thing. Maybe then the person will be even more enthusiastic about like using this solution or not, because they've already invested so much of their time in it.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Well, Dan, I hope that answered your question. I certainly learned something. CCQs, a new acronym to add to my collection. Yeah.
Please do. And that's it for today. Subscribe wherever you're hearing us so that you don't miss any future episodes. And until the next time, keep your ears open because
information talks.
Thanks and bye.
Bye.